Performing in a drum corps is often seen as reaching the pinnacle of the marching arts. The precision and technical accuracy from both a musical and visual perspective really highlight the ongoing work ethic and dedication of everyone who chooses to march drum corps. But other than the fact that these performers and groups are really impressive and talented, what are the little lessons, the often overlooked techniques that really make performing at this high level possible? And if I'm someone who's performing in a high school marching band, how can I use these different techniques to also perform to the best of my abilities? Well, let's start off with looking at something we've all heard before. If we've been in band for any length of time, make sure you watch the conductor, or in this case, your drum major. As you can see in this example from the Cadets 2023 show, Atlas Rising, the featured soloist has their eyes completely on the drum major, almost the whole time they're performing. You can also see this in another clip from the Colts 2023 production, Where the Heart Is. Time can be felt and heard in so many different ways on the field, and it's the responsibility of the drum major to make sure that time is being interpreted in a unified way. And although there are many different thoughts and opinions on how to best keep time on the field, it is ultimately a huge responsibility of every individual performer to make sure they're always being conscious of how the ensemble is choosing to interpret time. And you want to know one way you can interpret time on the field? Rely on the one whose job it is to interpret it, your drum major. Moving on to another form of communication, there's some lessons we can take away from the front ensemble and battery percussion sections in DCI. As you can see in this clip from the Cavaliers 2018 front ensemble, the performers are constantly looking toward the center of the ensemble to check in on timing with the center marimbist, as well as doing this grooving or pulsing motion with their bodies. The reason they do this is to ensure that every member of the ensemble is on the same page about the pulse and timing of what they're playing, which is just another way that time can be interpreted and then communicated by members within a section to the whole group, although this one is just front ensemble specific. On the battery or drumline side of things, they use a more audible form of communication to ensure that every single performer is on the same page before even playing a note. Take a listen. What you just heard was a clip from the Cavaliers 2016 show, where the snare line used the word dut before they came in. That's right, using duts is not just some cool word that the drumline gets to say before they play. It actually has an intentional and important purpose. Using this word in a short and high-pitched fashion allows members of the drumline to communicate with each other their interpretation of time before they play their next notes, thus ensuring that every single member starts and plays at exactly the same time. Alright, so we've talked about several forms of ensemble communication, but what are some other little lessons that we can take away from these drum corps? Well, I would have to say one lesson is definitely their attention to detail. In this clip from Santa Clara Vanguard's 2017 show, you can see how after the color guard has spun their flags, every single member catches it at exactly the same time. That's not something that just happens overnight, my friends. Forget all of the other things they're doing. Being able to just coordinate catching the flag at the same time as everybody else is a skill that takes hours of dedication just by itself. But it's that attention to those little details that make the visuals they're performing way more impressive than if they just didn't care about everyone catching the flag at the same time. And that's a level of performance you can easily achieve as well, if you put in the work to get there. Let's look at another example. This clip is from the Boston Crusaders 2023 show, White Whale, and what you can see is that every single member was able to kick their leg out or step out on precisely the same beat. It looks really impressive when every single member is performing to the best of their abilities. And all it takes is awareness of the pulse and timing to line something like that up, where every single performer lands on exactly the same beat. Something that if you individually chose to have the same awareness and attention to detail as these drum corps, you could easily bring the quality of your high school band's performance way up. This quality is important because it increases the enjoyment of our performances for both our audiences and ourselves as performers. We musicians should want to put our best foot forward, no pun intended, but so that way our audiences can be proud and we can be proud of ourselves too. And hey, notice how we haven't talked about anything that requires insane amounts of talent. It doesn't take years of private lessons to step out on the same beat, to be aware of what beat it is, or to watch your drum major. All it takes is awareness of those details, as well as the work ethic to practice them. One of the obvious differences between DCI and high school marching band is that these drum corps are out here rehearsing hours upon hours a day, every day for an entire summer, with their only focus being on mastering a competitive show from both a musical and visual perspective. But what these insane hours can teach us about these performers is that they work extremely hard and are super dedicated to the product they're putting out onto the field. And for someone who's a high school student performing in their school's marching band, it is not likely that the standards of excellence will be nearly as high as that of these drum corps. You see, high schoolers nowadays have so many things to balance, from schoolwork to participating in other activities, and for some, athletics. And if they have the opportunity to participate in all of those things in addition to band, they absolutely should. So it's not realistic to ask every student to have the same dedication to marching band outside of rehearsals as these performers who march drum corps. But what is possible is to have a high level of focus and work ethic during rehearsals similar to that of these drum corps. And if on top of all of that, they follow some of these little lessons we talked about today, then the quality of performance for the whole band is going to go way up. So let's follow these little lessons and make bands better everywhere. Something I'm sure we'd all want to see. My name's Zachary Savinsky. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.